Welcome back to the channel, everybody. How you doing? I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here. Today we are going to talk about toxic things. I was sitting there thinking about this. I got a comment a couple weeks ago and it really sparked my idea of this video. It's called positive toxicity. So a lot of people always talk about like being negative is very toxic. I'm also going to talk about being positive is very toxic. I think that's a really big thing nowadays, where especially the reading part, a lot of people don't want to give a bad review or a bad opinion about books because they're like, oh, they worked really hard on this book, so I don't want to give them a bad rating. And I understand that, because me as a writer, I've had a lot of people will tell me, yeah, your book's really good, but then they don't tell me, like, I'll have a lot of beta readers and now I don't have them anymore because they used to tell me, I don't see anything wrong with your book. Then I find out there's a lot of issues because I have other people that are alpha readers or beta readers that are like, well, I didn't like this or this is like misspelled, why is this here? And I realize there's just people that just don't want to be rude and tell you like a truthful thing. They just want to make you feel good because they understand you worked hard in it. And I understand that element, but at the same time, 50% of the time when you need some personal opinions on things, negative is going to be more beneficial for that person than positive. And that's why I think about with like books, when I talk about books, and if I do give a negative opinion on books, that doesn't mean I hate the book. It's just something I didn't enjoy, and I'm not going to sit there and say, yeah, this book was really good, even though if I didn't like it. I just don't feel authentic doing that. And I'm not gonna sit there and say I hate this book. Well, if it's depending on the book. I mean, there's books I plan on reading in the future that I'm like, oh god. But those are just because I want to make videos of those. I just like talking and reading about other things. And I feel like going into the mindset of just being positive on every single book or every single thing you do that involves literature is, I think, is a bad approach in general, because you need to have those negative opinions on books, because it helps you as a reader to realize, wow, maybe I just don't like this. Like, for example, if I didn't like Stephen King, I kept telling myself, oh yeah, Stephen King's a really good writer, he's really good at this stuff, I'm just lying to myself and I'm just wasting my time enjoying Stephen King's work. Like, to me, we'll use the best example. I'm not the biggest fan of Brandon Sanderson's books. I've read 4 of his books so far, and I'm just not a fan of his books. I'm not a fan of his writing, and I feel like he's just over explains his magic systems. And yeah, he has really good world building, he has good magic systems, but that's about it. I think that's what carries him through. I don't think his characters are the greatest, they're very repetitive, but that's just me. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean I'm gonna keep reading his books and just act like I'm being positive about all of his books, because I'm just not the biggest fan of his stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's just books that when people read them, I think people are just too positive about certain books because they just don't want to be mean and not honest about it. Like, to me, when I send my books, for example, to my beta readers, and they come back and they send me a lot of details of things I should do, and they're like, why the hell is this here? Why do you have this? Why do you have this character like this? Why is this like that? I appreciate that so much more than being like, your book was great, I had nothing wrong with it. Because it just gives you a delusion that, oh yeah, my stuff is really good. I think negativity in your books is way better, because as a writer, if someone's like, oh, I didn't like this book because of these reasons, the next book is gonna get way better. And to me, that's how I kind of look at it. Now, if you go into really dark areas, like last year when I read the Colleen Hoover books, she went into very dark approaches for a lot of her characters. A lot of her stories and plots were very dark. I've said this before, that Colleen Hoover did a terrible job at approaching any of these, that it romanticized so much of it, which is a problem to me. I feel like if she had her editors or anyone that was like, well, I think you should change this a little bit because this is a little too sus. You're not delivering what you want to deliver. It's how I feel. And that's why I would go for the approach. There's plenty of times where I've read plenty of Stephen King novels where I'm like, yeah, the editors kind of just let him do whatever because it's Stephen King. He's going to sell books. And I think that's fine sometimes. But like, to me, I would rather have negative feedback when I'm writing a book than positive ones, because I just get in a delusion that my books are fine. And with my first book, for example, I had nothing but positive feedback, and I realized I didn't have a good editor, I didn't have very good betas, I didn't have like any good promotional stuff, I didn't have anything that I needed for this book to be successful. Now I'm in a spot where it's like, now I gotta start from scratch, and I am learning so much more. My last new book, Newtown, was more of a success, and there was just errors on my fault for that one. So there's just things that I am learning as a writer, but I have such good feedback from people now that are telling me, oh, well, this is what's going on and you need to change it. This is what's going on and that's an issue as well. And I'm really enjoying that element, and I rather would have a group of people that are negative and pushing me to do better, because when you have those negative people that are like, oh, well, this is not that good, you need to do this, and you finally get over that hump of doing good things, they're gonna be like, wow, this was awesome. You know, they're gonna be honest. So to me, I always look at people being negative constantly as more of a positive than people just being positive, because I think positive, there is toxic positivity in this world, and that's where we live in right now. I think especially with books, I don't think people are honest about books, and they're just lying. That's just me. I could be lying about it, but that's just how I look at it, because I get told quite a bit in my comments that are like, oh, well, you're a little hard on this book, you know, think about what this author's going through. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm an author too, like I really grind through these books. I know what it feels like. It sucks, but you need honest feedback for your books. If you point out that in the world, you should always expect people to have different opinions on what you create. And I guess that's just why I kind of want to talk about. I just wanted to ramble on about toxic positivity and why I think it's actually a bad thing compared to like toxic negativity. I still think toxic negativity is bad. I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. But I think being negative on things is a really good idea. It just means that you really like the project that you are reading or watching, and you just were like, wow, this could have been so much better. Like right now for me, I just spent the last 2 months hardly writing. Because if you guys watched all my monthly write-ups last year, I was grinding through writing so many books, going through so many drafts. Right now, though, the last 2 months, I realized, I sat back and I was like, man, I need to do something different. I read through my first book, The Battle of Evermore, and I just read through The Path of the Wolf to check for any errors, any mistakes, because I was like, I'm so tired of someone saying, oh, the grammar is bad, it needs a good editor, when there's only like 2 mistakes in it. I was like, screw it, we're going through it. And I realized I went through it all, found no mistakes finally for both of them because I fixed them now. But that's something you have to learn as a writer. You have to go through these mistakes. You have to get through this to become a better writer. And that's what I was doing with this. So when I see those things, instead of me being like, oh, shucks, man, I shouldn't be writing, I'd say, you know what, you're right. The next book is going to go back harder. It's going to be better. And that's how I approach all of it. So I think negativity is a very good thing. You get that negative feedback, it's how you get better. If people are all around you telling you good things about it, maybe they're lying. Truthfully, they could be lying. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. What did you guys think about being, is toxic positivity a good thing or is it a bad thing? I would like to know down below. Is it worse than being negative? Should you always be positive on every single thing you read, or should you be negative on things you read? Should you be able just to speak your own opinion on what you want to read and your thought process of it, and not let other people dictate how you should feel about your books or how you write? Let me know down below, of course. Last but not least, make sure you guys stay safe, stay humble, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.